Middle of page 6 in Lunar Outfitters. As expected, in December 1941, the Office of Production Management in Washington, D.C. issued a priorities ban on Spinell and his company, which basically amounted to an order to cease manufacture of all commercial goods using latex. As with other manufacturers who had stashed a quantity of this valuable commodity, he was forced to sell much of his latex back to the government. His plan at that point was to begin designing and producing rubber goods for the U.S. military. He immediately set out designing and making collapsible canteens, inflatable rafts, and devices such as inflatable stretchers that could be floated across waterways. A news article from that time reported that Spinell was designed an assault boat whose impact had been felt all over the world. Floating stretchers which have saved lives of thousands, and secret equipment whose story cannot yet be told. The success of the inflatable rafts came about after a young army captain came to Spinell looking for a lightweight, collapsible boat. Spinell studied this challenge, and after a feverish month, produced the boat on a daring principle, using plastic bladders covered in fabric. The move from consumer products laid the groundwork for the eventual founding of ILC's Government and Industrial Products Division, which enabled Spinell to keep the doors open while at the same time supporting the war effort. And there's a photo of the Playtex Experimental Engineering Lab called Figure 1.2. The Playtex Experimental Lab, where new products were being developed, including high-altitude helmets and, eventually, pressure suits. Circa 1947, courtesy Fred Felderman. While at the same time supporting the war effort. As the war was concluding, he turned his attention back to the commercial products. But he now firmly believed that he needed to keep the company's product range diversified so that he could weather any financial and economic downturns. Thus, in 1947, he created separate divisions. He named one the Playtex Division, thus establishing the famous brand named for commercial products. His next focus was establishing a division for government and industrial products. Being the tinkerer that he was, Spinell bought an old brick building on Pear Street in Dover, across town from the main plant, and hung a sign across the top that said Playtex Experimental Engineering Lab. Past employees also referred to it as the Metals Division because part of its purpose was to make the metal racks to display the Playtex garments in stores. Spinell used this as his laboratory, where he could play around with new ideas that sprang into mind. In this building, he developed such things as hair cutters and a machine for packaging processed chicken. Somewhere among the odd projects, around 1949, the company landed the contract from the Air Force to design and build the high-altitude pressure helmets. Spinell later claimed that he started that division because he was convinced that 10% of his business should always be directed to products for defense work. By 1950, Spinell had organized the Industrial Products Division to provide technical and productive support for the economic and expedient handling of military and other specialized research and development programs. All this early work laid the foundation for the success of the Apollo spacesuits. It's one thing to be good as an inventor and develop new products, but one of the greatest qualities that Spinell exhibited was his ability to search out and hire talented employees. This trait was really what made all the difference for the future of International Latex Corporation. Before he died in 1985, Spinell had 2,000 patents to his name, and throughout his time as president of International Latex, he remained innovative and progressive. An article in Ebony magazine in January 1961 praised the company for its practice of hiring, integrating, and promoting black workers at a time when that was not the norm. The company worked closely with Delaware State College, now Delaware State University, a predominantly black college, to develop a program to bring international latex work to the college to provide students with the training they would need for future employment opportunities. Over several decades, Spinell spent a great deal of his money publishing editorials and running advertisements in major newspapers that promoted such issues as his staunch views against American isolationism and in support of all programs related to the New Deal. Following the war, he was caught up in controversy because many Republicans linked his liberal-leaning advertisements and the general positions he took to his being awarded large government contracts. However, no connections to any unscrupulous contract awards were ever proven. Spinell donated significantly to various health research programs focused on childhood cancers and other fatal diseases. In the 1950s, newspapers published articles about the money he donated to fly children suffering from cancer to hospitals across the country for treatment. He is remembered by many ILC employees as for the impromptu speeches he made over the company loudspeakers at any time of the day or week. The topic of his speeches varied, but tended to relate to world problems and the causes he was concerned about. He could also be found wandering the floor, handing out silver dollars to employees in a bid to boost morale. His employees respected and admired him very much. Leonard Shepard, the man with the vision of the future. Soon after Spinell began operating ILC in Delaware, he established his main residence in